Hello, everyone. You're listening to Michelle Speaks on 180radionow.com, currently heard in over 128 countries around the world, and I'm your host, Michelle Portier, founder of Healing Women, Healing Nations of Northeast Florida. We live in a society that condones living behind masks, hiding who we are and the issues we face, some too taboo to discuss with anyone. You may be worried about being judged or ashamed of what others may be thinking of you. Michelle Speaks not only uncovers it, but we look for solutions to deal with it head on. Stay tuned as we get to the heart of the matter, because if you hide it, you can't heal it. Welcome to Michelle Speaks. If you hide it, you can't heal it, where no topic is taboo. And I'm Michelle Portier, your host. Today, we are continuing the conversation on a very sensitive topic, and that topic is abortion, the stronghold of the enemy. But today, we're going to be coming at it from a different perspective, from the male's perspective. There are many accounts where women talk about the pain, the hurt, and other things that are associated with aborting their unborn child. But today we're going to be hearing from how the male feels about it. So today we have in the studio with us Mr. Montario Mo Weaver.
Oh, yeah. How you doing?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
I'm well. So,
Why you say well? I said I'm good. You say you well.
Because I'm well. All is well with my soul.
Well. Oh, all right then.
All right now.
Thank you, Jesus.
Anyhow, Mr. Montario Mo Weaver is going to be, again, speaking on this very sensitive topic. And I just wanted to put out here as a disclaimer, this is a sensitive topic, and those of you that may have triggers, at the end of the show, we are going to be providing resources for you to reach out and talk to someone if this causes memories to resurface, or if you have trouble handling the topic. So be on the lookout at the end of the show for resources to reach out to help you navigate through the feelings that may come up as we talk about this. So, Mr. Weaver, I would like you to tell our listening audience, who is Montario Mo Weaver? Personally, professionally, and spiritually.
All right.
All of that.
All of that.
All of that.
All right. I'm gonna try not to hold anything back.
Don't hold back. No topic is taboo.
I'm not used to emptying out the piggy bank. It's not something I'm accustomed to, but you have a way of just getting it out of people. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the piggy bank.
Let's open it up. Crack it wide open.
Let me take a deep breath. Okay. So anyway, some people know me as Montario. Some people know me as DJ Mo Diddley. Some people just know me as Brother Mo. I am the station manager for 180radionow.com. Very quickly growing Christian internet radio platform, and I am responsible for the music that you hear, the shows that you hear on the air. But that's not really what I do. I, actually, in real life, not that this is a fake life.
I hope not.
But in real life, I'm a technologist.
Okay.
I have been in the IT industry for 22 years.
Oh wow.
And
so you know everything. You know a lot.
There's some people that say that, but I will never confess that I know everything, because the moment you do that, you're on the hook for a lot of stuff that you don't even know what you're on the hook for.
True.
People just assume you're an expert in everything.
Right.
And they get mad at you when you say, well, what's wrong with my computer? I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with you. You're the expert.
You the SME.
I haven't seen your computer. I can't tell you what's
subject
wrong.
matter expert.
I can't tell you. But no, I love what I do. And I think the biggest thrill for me is being able to take what I know about technology and share it with people that need to be able to leverage it for what they need to do. And God has blessed me. I have a way of being able to take some real complicated technical concepts and processes and kind of boil them down and make them relatable to
Okay.
people, so that they can take something that somebody else has spent billions of dollars to be able to use, and then now you can do it too for your
Right.
business, for your home, or for your family, or whatever. But I love sharing information with people. I get a big kick out of that.
So you share it in a way that they're able to receive it
Yeah,
and apply it. So in
yes,
layman's terms,
yes.
love it, love it, love it.
Yes,
And I just have to put
yes.
this plug in there. This is the world's greatest station manager,
You know
producer
what?
slash.
Well, you know what?
Anyhow.
Let me clear my throat.
But we have to give honor where honor is due. So I'm just saying.
Yeah. I, as much as I like to do, and the things that I'm able to do, the capabilities that I have, they're nothing if I can't trust God to use me for His glory.
Amen.
Everything that I know, everything that I'm able to do, I've taken entire companies and literally rebuilt their network infrastructures and have saved them from going into bankruptcy.
So you are the solution.
I am the solution
maker.
guy. I'm a solution guy. My wife tells me, she says, it's great that you think that way, but not everybody wants you to fix their problems. Sometimes they just want you to listen.
Well,
And I'm like, oh,
that's a true statement.
I'm like, boom, 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 boom. So I take my little tool belt and put it over my shoulder and walk off. But I love technology, and I thank you for asking me to be on your show.
Thank you for agreeing to come on and be transparent about a very sensitive topic.
It's not easy. I'll tell you, and anybody that most people find it very difficult to be transparent about how they feel.
Right.
More importantly, about what they've gone through or what they're going through. It's a lot
we're all
easier.
going through something.
But everybody's got issues. You hear that adage, all God's people got issues. Everybody got issues. Whether you love God or not, you got issues.
Look, the church and the unchurched.
Exactly. And I commend you for dealing with an issue like this, especially on this platform. This issue about abortion, you hear it on the news.
Right.
And then you hear it in the context of what's happening in the courts. Whether, is it okay for women to be able to decide for themselves when they can have an abortion?
Well,
and legislating a woman's right to be able to choose whether to keep the baby or not.
Well, that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, that's a whole
because
nother topic
that's
altogether.
Her right about what goes on with her body.
Exactly. And but there are many women that choose that option to terminate the life of their child,
Right.
Their unborn child. And it's a very difficult issue to deal with. But at least every time I hear about it, it's always in the context of what the courts can and cannot mandate a woman to do with her body.
Right.
You never, ever hear about what happens during the process of having an abortion. You don't hear about what happens after you've had the abortion.
The effects, the after effects.
And then you definitely don't hear about, like you said, the after effects. What happens to that woman's psyche? What happens to the emotional construct of that woman after she has willingly, knowingly terminated the life of a child that is growing inside of her?
Right.
And for those that have even seen what an aborted baby looks like, anybody that knows me knows that I'm very rarely at a place where I don't have words.
Right.
I got words for something, for somebody, for everything. When it comes to this, I don't have words for it. And that in itself unnerves me because I think I have a fairly decent command of the English language.
Fairly decent.
And I like to speak, and I like to write, and I like to share, and I like to talk. But when it comes to this I have no words for, because it's beyond crushing. It's beyond damaging. It's beyond destructive. It's so beyond any word that you can comprehend that can fully address what you feel like after you've gone through an abortion.
Let me just say this, and then I want to go and Because the reason that I wanted to have you on to speak from the male's perspective, because when we talked about this during the other show, the other segment, I saw your response and I saw your reaction.
Yes.
And I felt that that was something that we needed to further address and that we needed to further bring out. Because until I saw your reaction, I never really considered, it from the male's perspective. The reason that I want to talk about these things, and you touched on something earlier. You said no one really talks about the psyche of the woman after.
Correct.
I had an abortion at 17. And, as I said in the last segment, it was done overseas. And it was done out in town because it was not done on base unless the mother's life was in jeopardy.
Right.
And so I will forever, and I often, not as often as before, but often think about how old my child would have been. What would they have accomplished in life?
Right.
And it's
Yes.
hard not to go over into guilt, but the thing that will never be erased from my mind was the memory of being strapped to that bed with stirrups and my arms being strapped down, and then seeing the aborted fetus after the fact. And so I think it's important that we talk about how it changes the psyche, because it
Absolutely.
did change my psyche.
Absolutely.
But I'm now in a position, in a place in my healing that I can go and help others, which is what we want to do today. So my question to you is, now that you've had time to reflect on the impact, now that you've realized the impact that it may have had
Yes.
on the young lady that you were sharing about, how do you deal with the fact, and how do you handle the fact that you played a role in ending the life of a viable fetus, and how it impacted her life and how it's impacting your life now? Because this is fresh for you.
Yes, it's still fresh. And actually, I have chosen to push it way, 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 way down, and have pushed it way, way down since my early days in the military.
Right.
So just to kind of set the background on this. So my fiance at that time, we had been dating all through high school. And I had to work really hard.
High school sweetheart.
Yeah, we were high school sweethearts.
Okay.
She loved bugs, plants, all that stuff. Yeah, all that stuff that makes you go ew. She wanted to be a molecular biologist, and I wanted to be an aeronautical engineer. We had made plans that even though we were going to go to separate colleges, that we were going to move here to Florida.
Okay.
And I was going to go work for NASA or work for JPL. That'd be Jet Propulsion Labs.
That was a plan. You had it all.
That was
laid
a
out.
plan. That was a plan. And she was going to work for one of the leading universities in Southern Florida on doing some biomedical research.
Okay.
So that was the plan. And, while other people would like go to movies and stuff, we would be over at each other's, our parents' houses, and we would be helping each other with our science projects.
And that's how you spent your quality time.
That's how we spent our quality
Okay.
time. We spent our quality time growing each other's skill sets, challenging each other, and making sure that we didn't lose sight of the goal.
That sounds like a relationship to me.
Oh, it was
Ideal.
Oh, it was a relationship. Yeah, Cletus. Yes.
Okay, back on topic.
Okay. So, I'm going to answer your question, but I wanted to go ahead and preface that so that people will understand the context.
Understood.
So we weren't just two young people having sex.
Right.
We genuinely loved each other.
You were friends.
We were friends.
Above, first and foremost.
First and foremost, we were friends. And we had goals, individual goals. And then throughout the course of high school, because we met like in 9th grade.
Okay.
And, we didn't really start to get sexually active until our junior year. So, and this isn't seeing each other in class and then we don't see each other until the next day at school.
Right.
No. This is, we were like everywhere.
So you were friends, like best friends. You had that strong, firm foundation of friendship.
Yes, we did. We most certainly
knew each other's, the ins and outs.
Yes.
All of that.
Yes, we took time to know each other's favorite colors, stuff that we like to eat. After school, our thing was, because she went to Boston Technical High School and I went to Boston Latin High School. So our thing was, after school, we would head out to Copley Square. And Codman's, not Codman. We go out to Commonwealth Avenue and go to the what's that ice cream place? The fancy ice cream.
I don't know. Cold Stone, Cobblestone.
No. Those are creameries. This is they make rum raisin. Haagen-Dazs.
Okay, gotcha. Obviously, I don't know about ice cream.
Yeah, that's okay. That's all right. That's all right. You the host. You can say what you want. So
thank you for giving me grace.
Hallelujah. But our thing was, after school we would go to like the Haagen-Dazs store and eat ice cream and then talk about what our day was like in school.
Wow.
And then, like, so baby.
So you were just real, no pretense.
There was none of that. And then, the thing that attracted me to her was that she always had a plan for her life, and she worked her goal out every day. And we were part of this small group with the NAACP called ACTSO, Afro-Cultural Technical Scientific Olympics. Think of it as like the Olympics, but it's for the Olympics of the mind, body, spirit, and soul.
I like that.
And the NAACP sponsored it. I think they still do. But, they have like regional competitions. And if you win, when you win, then you go to the national competition and you would compete at the at the NAACP convention. So this is what we did every day throughout our 4 years in high school. Actually, 5 years in high school, because we started in the 8th grade. High school started for 8th grade for us.
Okay.
So, but in any event, to make a long story short, our relationship was real. It was serious. And then we became sexually active when we won. I won at an MIT competition, and she won some biology experiment thing, and we wound up getting they flew us out to They flew us out to Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
And that's where we had the competition. Yeah. So, they put you up at, as a matter of fact, we stayed at the Omni Hotel. I'd never stayed at a hotel like that in my life.
Everything was ideal.
Oh, it was perfect.
The atmosphere.
It was perfect.
You guys were already on a high from winning. So you were celebrating.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So we're celebrating, we were celebrating our respective victories in our competitions.
I'm following.
And then, that night, after bed check,
right.
We were like, what you gonna do? I don't know. What you gonna do? After bed check, I see you at 10:30.
Isn't that how we do? That sounds like two young people in love.
Exactly. And while we're laughing because of the innocence in it,
right?
But it's not a laughing matter when the ultimate happens out of that union.
And now there's consequences.
And I didn't know about the consequences. Right after that, I had a group, and I was getting ready to record an album in the recording studio. We were going to Newberry Sound. We were going to record our first album. And I had a conversation with my father, and he was like, listen, you've got accepted all these different colleges. You're not going anywhere. You need to either go to college, go in the military, but you're not staying here.
Right. Well,
and I was like, all right, cool.
That's the conversation most parents have, especially with the boys.
Yep. So I was like, all right, no problem. You ain't have to tell me twice. And I was not going back into college. I was not. I had enough of school.
You were done with school?
I was done. I had 5 years of Latin. We're not talking about Latin and Spanish. We're talking about Latin, like omnes curricula, gamne diam.
I don't even know what that means, but okay.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
The only people that speak Latin are doctors and lawyers, because it's a dead language. But we would be speaking it on the subway. That's how long we were taking it.
Wow. And
I was taking Latin, German, French, Spanish. I was taking a college one, algebra, all this other stuff. I just got tired of school.
You know what?
What?
I mean, that makes me think of even hosting a episode called Managing Stress. Just listening to you talk about that.
It was bad. Yeah. It was really bad.
But you made it through.
I did make it through. And I wound up going into the military, and I told her what I was going to do. And it was it was kind of a little wrench in things. She hadn't really anticipated on me doing that, but it was cool. She knew that I told her that was my path to getting into college and having the military pay for it and all this other cool stuff. I'm going to be a nuclear power engineer. I'm going to be running nuclear reactors on the ships and the submarines. And,
they had it all mapped out.
You know what I'm saying? They got like out of 3% out of all of the nuclear engineers in the Navy, less than 3 were black, and I was in that number. So I was like,
you were going to break some barriers.
Yeah. I was going to get that $40,000 re-enlistment bonus and move her down. We're going to get our house and all this good stuff. And she flies down to my graduation exercises at boot camp.
Okay.
And my parents came, very proud of me. And she pulled me to the side and she said, "I'm pregnant." And I was like, "What?" Now, I grew up in a household. I was one of the few kids that was blessed to have a mother and a father in the house.
Wow.
Now,
you were blessed.
There was some dynamics in there that were powerful to say the least. My father did not play. He was like a black J.R. Ewing.
Wow.
He did not play. Seriously, he would bury you.
He didn't play the radio.
He ain't play the radio.
Wow.
He didn't play the radio. He didn't play the fiddle. He didn't play the flute, drums, bass, guitar, nothing. My father was the real deal. The real deal. Like Denzel Washington. In that movie, he's a drug dealer.
Right.
My father was a real deal.
I'm with you.
But anyway, she told me she was pregnant, and my father overheard the conversation. So, and my father had this thing with island women. He didn't like islanders, period.
Really?
Yeah.
Why was that?
Because of his experiences with islanders.
So was she an island woman?
Yes. Okay. She was from La Brea.
Her family or
her entire family.
Okay.
And but man, was she fine. Oh my gosh, she was fine. But and we loved each other. That was the thing. We had plans. We were gonna have a future with each other, and we talked about all the kids we were gonna have, and they were all gonna be geniuses and saw all this cool stuff. So she tells me she's pregnant, and I think that was one of the few times in my life that I didn't know what to say.
You're speechless.
I was speechless, and the only thing that I could reconcile in my mind was that, okay, my father didn't dump me. My father didn't run out on my sister and I raising us. So I'm not about to run out on my fiance and my unborn child. I'm going to raise my child. That was the thought that popped into my mind. Okay. And then she asked me, she said, the plans that we have. Do you really think that we can continue doing this if we have a baby? And
that's a loaded question.
That was a loaded question. And now remember, she flew down from Boston to Orlando
to tell you,
to tell me that in and of itself was a mind-blowing thing to do. And with the mission that you're going to tell me this, and then now we need to figure out what we're going to do.
What to do next. Well, that's not something I guess she felt she wanted to talk to you about over the phone.
No. I kind of wish she had, but...
Why? Would that have made it easier?
Yeah, it would have made it easier. You know what? Here's the thing about guys. Guys, responsible men. Responsible men still don't like bad news. Okay. And the reason why we don't like bad news is because inherently we're providers.
True. Providers, protectors.
We're providers, we're protectors, we're problem solvers. We if there's it's kind of like, it's kind of like the fireman with a hose running around looking for a fire to put out. Responsible men look for problems to solve. And a lot of times it's easier for us to deal with issues that are not directly in our face, especially when it comes to the women that we love. A lot of times we don't want to hear what they have to say. We just we want them to know that we're listening to them.
So anytime a woman says, "Baby, I want to talk," is there a shutdown? Is there?
There's a oh my gosh. Oh man, I hope this don't turn out to a Kleenex party.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. If I just put on the face and look like I'm good with it, whatever she's got to say, I'm supportive. I'm there. But we're not emotional creatures. We're analytical.
I agree.
And most women, there are women that deduce well and they think on their feet very well. But I have never met a woman that was not emotional. Not one. And I've met many.
Okay.
In different countries. And
so
I've never met.
Trying to say it doesn't matter the nationality. All women
I don't think
are
it matters.
emotional.
I don't think it matters.
Okay.
I really don't.
That can kind of almost sound like a little bit chauvinistic.
It might be. It might be. It might be. And forgive me. Forgive me. Forgive me.
I forgive you in advance.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
For everything
here's
you
our
might
disclaimer for anything that I might say for the rest of this show. But to make a long story short, she told me she was pregnant. I didn't know how to handle it. And she asked me, what do you want to do? And I was like, wow, I didn't know what to do. What I saw was our lives flashing in front of me. I saw her not being able to fulfill her dream. I saw her being resentful. I saw us living that life that a lot of couples have when they have an unexpected pregnancy and they're not married, or even when they are married, how that child it irrevocably changes their lives.
It changes the course of their life.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that's what I saw in that moment that she asked me. It's kind of like that, you saw your life flashing before your very eyes kind of thing.
Right.
That's what I saw.
So never once did you think about how it was going to affect your life. You were totally focused on how it was going to affect hers.
After I thought about how it would affect her, I thought about how it would affect me.
Okay.
Then I started looking at, okay, how is this going to affect me when I go to my duty station? Because wherever I go, she's got to go. So now we have this baby, or babies. I'll never know.
Right.
Which is sad enough in itself to admit. But, I didn't know how that was going to work. Where were we going to get childcare from? I mean, literally I was what? 20, and she was
just starting out.
Yeah, she was 18. Like, okay, what do we do now? So I thought about all the things that I could not do. And I thought about the things that she would have to give up. And then instead of being a responsible, logical, caring individual, I threw it back on her. I took the chicken, way out.
So you took the weight off you and you threw it back in her court.
Yeah, I threw it back on her. Okay. And my answer to her was, well, you're right. This would change our lives. How do you want to handle it? And then she said, well, I could get an abortion. And I had never been in that situation ever. But all I knew was my parents didn't abort me.
Right.
They didn't abort my sister. What am I supposed to do with that? And instead of taking ownership and providing direction, because that's what she wanted me to do. She wanted me to provide the direction.
Well, as the man, she was looking for you for that.
That's what she was doing. But I clammed up. I clammed up, threw it back at her. And what I expected her to do was when she flew back to Boston, that she was going to go ahead and pack her stuff up and, get with me while I was going to my A school.
Right.
And, then I was going to go to my C school and, and then whatever my permanent duty station was. And, we were going to go do our thing.
Right.
She sent me a letter. She sent me a letter and, she said she had the abortion.
And what did you feel in that moment when you read that?
I was devastated.
Even though you had told her that I'll just leave it up to you, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. And that was the reason. That was one of the primary reasons why I was devastated, because I should not have put that pressure on her. And I did. And unfortunately, there are in the cases that I've witnessed firsthand with, because being in the military, you have guys that, they'll go ahead and they'll get a woman pregnant in a minute. I mean, we in the Navy.
And pay for it.
Exactly. They'll have it payroll deducted out of their check. And I didn't know how to function with that.
So how did you function?
It was. I think it was easy for me to do because I threw myself in my job in the Navy.
That was your way of coping.
That was my way of coping with it. I'm in nuclear power school, and you are given 6 years of engineering in 3 years.
Wow, yeah, that's pretty intense.
It was intense. I mean, there were guys committing suicide at NTC.
That's tough. Nuclear.
It's
field
not,
in and of itself is tough.
It's not easy. I've watched guys literally climb up to the top of the building where there's radar towers and just let themselves be irradiated by the radiation coming out of the antennas, and then, they come back down, and after a while they get cancer and they die. I watched a guy who he suffered a mental break in class, and he went out, bought a Ninja Kawasaki motorcycle, and drove that joker into the back of a pickup truck. Came through the back window, out the windshield.
My goodness.
All because he freaked out because he was going to an academic review board.
Wow.
Because they were gonna revoke his status in nuclear power school and send him to the fleet.
So you were under a
lot of stress.
A lot of stress.
And I lived in that. I lived in that, and then that allowed me not to have to think about it.
So after reading the letter, did you attempt to reach out to her?
Not right away.
Okay.
Right away.
Did you respond to the letter?
No, I didn't do anything with the letter.
Okay.
I think it was after I left nuclear power school. So that would have been about maybe a year and a half later. Again, took the coward's way out. And what I did was I actually took leave, went home, and I went looking.
So a year went by.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was a punk about the whole thing, and I think
you were coping the best way that you know how.
I didn't know how, but that's no excuse,
And I'm not saying it as an excuse, but just
right.
Yeah. This is just you talking about how you felt, and maybe some of the feelings that you've had suppressed all this time, they're now coming to the surface.
Yeah. I didn't call her. I went home looking for her. I took leave, flew to Hanscom Air Force Base, and hopped a couple of rides, made it to Boston, and I went to her apartment to where her mother lived, and went looking for her.
Right.
They had moved, and of course, there's no internet back then
at that time.
So you have to do things the old fashioned way. You got to go ahead and canvass a neighborhood. Be like, hey man, y'all seen I'm not going to mention the names. Y'all seen so and so. Yeah. They moved. They went all the way down to they're down there off of the North End. I'm like, okay, cool, thank you. And I knew a lot of people. So I mean, when you know people, it's easy to find people that don't want to be found when you know folk.
Right.
So I availed myself of the people that I knew, and I tried to find her, and I never found her.
Wow. Do you think that's because she didn't want to be found?
I think yeah. And I would not be surprised at all if she held anything against me, because while it was our mutual decision to do what we did, in terms of getting to that point, it was me that did not take the responsibility, and I threw it back on her. And and this is what you can't expect, fellas. You can't expect to take a major decision, throw it back on your girl, and then get mad when your girl does what you told her. She does what you think that she isn't going to do.
Right.
And then you go back and you try to reconcile the situation. It's too late at that point. You can't reconcile that. You can reconcile what's left over. And then going forward. But you can't go back and you can't harbor ill will to someone that you did not take responsibility for covering. I should have covered her. She was my fiance. She was my fiance. I was going to marry her.
So you feel you failed her?
Oh, I failed her. There's no doubt about it. And that stays with me. I know God has forgiven me because I've asked him to.
Right.
And I've lived my life. I lived my life and forgiving myself for it. But that still doesn't take away from the fact that those memories are still there and it's still fresh. I wonder where she's at right now. To this very day, I wonder where she's at. I wonder, if she has a family. Not that I can do anything about that, but those are the things that still occupy my mind. I'll tell you what I find is interesting. If you look at abortion statistics, and we're not talking about just, what men, deal with, but I mean, like, since I'm looking at some statistics here from the CDC, when they started tracking abortions, in 1970. They were looking at the number of abortions that were reported to the CDC was 193,491. That was in 1970.
Right.
This is 2016. So let's fast forward.
2017.
Let's fast forward. I think the last statistics that I know of are 2013. That number went from 193,491 to 664,435. But check this out. This is what's crazy. Back in the 90s, there were over 1 million abortions reported in the early 90s. Now, I want you to think about that. In the early 90s, we had the AIDS epidemic. We had and abortion was really out there because there was no legislation. All you had was Roe versus Wade. But there was no legislation, and then you had, and think about the number of abortions that happened but weren't reported.
Right.
These are just the ones that were reported. At one point in this country,
that were botched because they were done illegally.
Exactly. 1,429,247 abortions at one point.
So this is a very, 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 very difficult topic, a sensitive topic, and something that we just need to talk about and find a solution.
I'll tell you, to answer your question, how did I feel? I felt like I was not a man. I was not the definition of a man. Men protect their women. Not their women as in possession, but their women in relationship and covenant.
Right.
I had a duty to her, and I failed. And I put it back on her because I wasn't ready to face it, and I didn't want to make that call. I tell you, women make this call every day to decide whether or not they want to keep or kill the fetus that they're carrying. Y'all make it every single day.
And we live with that decision.
I think that there are men that want their baby. They want y'all to have the baby. We want y'all to have the baby. But then, the woman's looking at, well, I'm the one that's got to raise this child. They're not thinking about what the man's going to do, what his participation is going to be.
Or they're thinking about, well, he said he's going to be there, but
exactly,
is he really?
But they don't know.
Right.
And then I'm going to get stuck with this baby, and it's going to change my life, and
I'm going to be struggling, and they're going to be living carefree. And,
exactly. And I'm going to have to chase him down to get child support and all this other crazy stuff, which in many cases that happens.
It's the reality.
It is the reality. But this particular episode is about from the perspective of what men think about it. And I have read, just as a way of catharticism for me, periodically I'll go and I'll read about how men react and deal with abortions, because it still comes up in my mind.
Is that how you cope with it when the thoughts come back? Okay.
Yeah, that's how I deal with it.
Okay.
Before I used to ignore it, but because I'm so busy all the time, being busy doesn't do anything.
Doesn't make it go away.
It's kind of like that person that's an alcoholic. They drink to make the symptoms go away. But then they get to a point where they drink so much that the symptoms don't go away,
and then
you're compounding your problem.
Sober again, then the same
it's worse.
Issue was there before they drank. Is still there.
Yes,
and then some.
Yes, exactly. And I believe that men that are part of that process, I think sometimes men are alienated because women don't want to. I believe, generally speaking, I'm going to go out on the limb and say this. Generally speaking, women don't consult men. They don't consult their boyfriends or their partners, whatever you want to call them. They don't consult them when they're talking about what to do with the baby that's inside their body. This is my body. I do what I want to it.
I will say that's true with the stipulation that, and this is a whole nother topic in and of itself, but I will just go ahead and put it out there. Except for the woman that is trying to keep a man and is purposely trying to get pregnant.
Been there too.
Yeah.
Been there too.
Yeah.
Been there too. I had a girlfriend who I broke it off with her because I was getting married. But I was getting married because she was pregnant.
Right.
Not because this is what I knew I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I had made it. I'm gonna tell you how this affects the psyche of a man. I'll tell you how it affected me. It affected me in this perspective. I lived with that. I still live with it. And I decided that the next time that I had an opportunity to be blessed by a woman that was going to carry my seed, I was not going to allow that seed to be destroyed.
You weren't going to abandon
it. It wasn't going to happen. And if I had to marry this sister to make that happen, then guess what? Dum, 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 dum.
And let me go back and say, I'm not saying that you abandoned her in a physical sense, but emotional, mental.
Yes.
So you weren't going to allow that to happen again.
I was not going to let that happen again. I had a hard time dealing with it. I can't even begin to imagine what was going through her mind.
So what would you say to a woman, and this is for my listening audience who may have this question, what would you say to a woman who is contemplating whether or not to have an abortion and contemplating whether or not to tell the father? Whether they are in a committed relationship or whether it was just something casual, whatever the circumstances, what would you say to her?
Okay.
Knowing what you know now and how you feel.
The baby that you're carrying is in your body. You are ultimately responsible for what happens to that baby as it grows in your body and as and up to the time that you deliver it. You are everything that is in you, everything that you are comprised of, everything that constitutes you goes into that child. Everything that your thoughts, your emotions, your reactions to what goes on around you in your life, the stress, the joy, all of that gets passed to your child. Everything that you eat, when you sleep, your thoughts, everything gets passed on to your child.
Right.
And your child is being built inside of you, even when you're not conscious of it. I would say this to you. One, yes, it is your body. Yes, you are responsible for what goes on inside your body. But because there is a life that is inside of you that you didn't put there yourself, you have an obligation to let whoever it is that that seed is a part of, let that individual know what's going on with you. Now, there are crazy extenuating circumstances sometimes as to how a woman gets pregnant. She may have been raped.
Right. And you took the words right out of my mouth. Go ahead.
She may have been raped. I have not met any women yet, but I have met men who were quote unquote rape babies. Their mothers were raped, sometimes multiple times.
And so were they treated?
By multiple men, and they were treated. But they did not terminate their pregnancy. They let that baby be born. And I know 3 guys that are tremendous God-fearing men that have their own families, and they share their story. I would say to a woman that is pregnant, this is me that's speaking. This is Mo Diddley. This is your body's not mine. I did not impregnate you. It is your life, and I don't know your life. But I will tell you this: if you terminate that child, you will never be the same. You will be changed. You will be irrevocably changed. There's going to be a large piece of you that's going to be missing in your life, and until you come to the realization of who Jesus Christ is and allow him to take that pain away from you, you're going to live with that pain every single day you breathe.
So with that being said, do you feel like a piece of you is missing? Absolutely.
A piece of me was missing.
Okay.
You kind of aptly put it in perspective before we got on the air. That piece is no longer missing. Christ makes me whole.
Exactly.
I mean, because if that's the case, we could talk about a lot of things that happen in our lives.
Right.
Been robbed, you've been shot, you've been, you've been sexually abused, verbally abused, emotionally abused. You could have gone through literally hell in your life. And when you go through that, there are pieces of you that are stripped away from you, taken away from you.
Fragmented.
You are fragmented. You're like a walking, talking broken mirror. And when anybody that's ever looked in a broken mirror, there is no cohesive image. You have bits and pieces of images, and they're not next to each other.
They're not fitting.
They don't fit. Exactly. Thank you. They don't fit. Should I tell you to go ahead and have your baby? I'd say yes, have your baby. Even, you know what? God forbid, even if you were raped, because there's every life counts.
Okay.
Every life counts.
And that is true. So this is the other side of that. Say that a woman decides to have the baby anyway, even if she was raped. There are instances where the woman is now being taken to court and being forced to allow the assailant to interact with the baby. What would you say to that woman?
If you try to handle this on your own, you'll fail. You do not have the capacity within yourself to wage that kind of war. You need to have, and you can call it whatever you want, but I know for a fact, if it had not been for the fact that Christ saved me from myself, I wouldn't be here. There are only two places that I know for a fact, just as sure as you're sitting in that chair, I would either be dead or I'd be in prison. Period.
Well, I know there's a whole lot of us that can attest to that.
I mean, literally, I know, because I know the situations that I've been in, and I know the situations that I put myself in sometimes. I know for a fact that I'd be buried 6 feet underground, or I'd be serving some kind of 25 to life sentence. Wow. I know this for a fact.
Wow. Well,
so
I'm glad that Christ found you.
He did.
Or you found Christ.
He did. And because Christ met me where I was, his love for me allowed me to be able to love myself and then forgive myself.
And that's the key right there.
You got to be able to do that. And because without that, you can't move forward. You're stuck.
Those two things.
You're stuck. You're absolutely stuck. And when you're in a situation where someone has violated you, and now there's a life that you're carrying as a result of that violation, the ultimate in violation of a human being, of a woman, it's that I can't think of anything that you could do worse to a woman than to rob her of her choice to be able to give herself to someone that matters in her life.
I definitely agree with that.
I would tell that woman right now, if you're listening to this show, I would tell you, you may not like what I'm about to say to you, but I'm going to tell you, you need to establish a relationship with Jesus Christ, because it is the presence of God that is going to give you the presence of mind to be able to get out from where you are.
That's rich. The presence of God that will give you the presence of mind.
Yes.
To be able to get unstuck.
Yes, because the mind is the seat of all consciousness.
Yes,
we can't praise God if we lose our mind. If we can't think, we can't reason, we can't receive the word. If we lose our ability to be able to communicate with people, then you don't have the ability to be able to worship and fellowship the way that God designed us, because you don't have the mind for it. It's like the boy that the disciples couldn't heal. Because his father was like, my son keeps throwing himself all over the place. He's trying to kill himself. And, and Jesus is like, oh, this generation, how much longer I got to suffer with you guys? You guys watch me every day do this stuff.
Right.
Okay, never mind. I'll handle this myself. And when Christ ministered to that boy and cast that demon out, that boy had the presence of mind.
Yes, he did.
To be able to follow God.
And that therein, you just said and explained in a nutshell how abortion becomes the stronghold of the enemy.
Amen. Yes. Yeah. Wow, that's good.
That was good.
That's good.
That was rich.
I feel what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's not, you know what? I've not been in that situation. But I have been in the situations where, I got married because I refused to deal with the abortion thing, one. And two, I was not going to allow her to get with some other dude that was going to raise my child. That was not going over my dead body. I would die first, because then
you feel that strongly about it.
Oh, man, fat meat greasy. That's all I got to say.
So, and this is just something that I'm pondering as you said this.
Yes.
So, in the circumstance where a woman is impregnated because of an assault,
yes,
would you say that that is the mindset of the assailant once he finds out that woman, if he finds out that woman has become pregnant after he's assaulted her?
Say the question again.
If an assailant finds out that the woman that he assaulted becomes pregnant with his child as a result of that, do you think that is the mindset behind it? They don't want someone else to raise their seed, even though they force themselves on that woman.
I think that if you have the presence of mind to violate a woman in such a way, and she becomes pregnant, you don't really have the wherewithal. You don't have the understanding in you to care enough whether another man is going to raise your child until after the fact, until after you see her with somebody.
So what would you say the motivation would be behind that? Because an assault, especially a sexual assault, is all about power and control.
Yes.
It's not about the sex.
Yes. Wow. I believe that there is a fair amount of control involved in that. That individual, because now that individual doesn't see the baby as that individual, doesn't see the baby as a person or as an extension of himself, but as a method of being able to control the woman, to be able to control the mother. And ultimately, that's what that really is about. That's about me exerting my will over you and using
this child,
or quote unquote, my son
or daughter,
to establish a foothold in your life and regulate. That's really what that's about. There is no genuine care or concern for establishing a relationship with that woman or with the baby unless the man that did it, or the quote unquote father, has an epiphany
and is remorseful
and repents about that. So, you know what?
And is trying
I did
to make
you wrong.
Amends.
Yes. Now that's different.
Okay.
That's different. And then even in that, the mother will still be skeptical because of how it happened and what happened. But I'm telling my thing to all of you mothers that are expecting, and you are your baby, you are now carrying this unborn child as a result of a failed relationship, whether you two had some mutual exclusivity at some point and then things just fell apart, or whether you were violated in the worst way, and you don't know whether or not you want to keep the baby or you don't know whether or not you want to keep the baby or kill it. My advice to you is, if you feel, if there is no reason, if there's nothing wrong with you,
right,
where your health could jeopardize that baby being born to term healthy, or if you just, you know what, I don't even want this baby, carry the baby to term and give the baby up for adoption.
Okay, so adoption is
give the baby away so that somebody else can be blessed by what God has created in you. You need to understand this. Yes, the baby may not have come through a traditional way. You may not have gotten that baby. You may have been raped, and that baby is now, being born inside of you and is being created. That is still God. God has created that baby. You, with what God has given you in your reproductive system and what the seed that God has placed into that man. Now that God put that seed in that man. Now what he did with it, that's not God. That's not God. If he raped you, that's not God. But his seed is in you, and there's creation. There is life forming inside your belly.
So what would you say? Because I can understand maybe if a woman who is saved might be able to receive that or hear that. But what would you say to the unsaved woman or young lady that may be encountering this and may be battling and pondering, what should I do? Should I or shouldn't I?
Yeah, that's a good question, because not everybody has received Christ.
Right.
If woman, young lady, if you find yourself in that situation and you have not come to know the Lord Jesus Christ as your personal Savior, you may be struggling with that, or it not even may be on your radar. All you can think about right now is what's going on with your life with this baby. I would say to you, if you kill this child, who are you killing?
That's a loaded question.
Are you killing a police officer that may make a difference in someone's life and save someone's family or save someone's child? Are you killing a public official who may be responsible, for some major legislation that's going to in some great way change the lives of the people in this country? Are you going to kill a pastor? Are you going to kill a doctor or an attorney, a teacher? The question is, do you know who you're going to kill? It's not what you're killing, but it's who you're killing, because what you're carrying is a fetus. That fetus is going to turn into a who. It's going to turn into a male or female. It's going to develop, and it's going to have a name, and it's going to have breath in it. And, if you kill that, you don't know who you're killing. You might as well, if you kill your baby, what's the difference between taking a loaded gun and just walking up to somebody in the street and just shoot them in the head?
Right.
What I know this sounds rather crazy and morbid in a way, but you're doing the same thing. You don't know. If you go downtown, you don't know half the people that you go to the mall. Who do you know? There might be you might find somebody that you know in the mall. For the most part, you're not going to know those folk. So why not just go ahead and just whip out your jammy and flat blast them, kill them, because that's what you're doing to your child.
What I will say in response to that is this. I think about every day, and I share this at the beginning of the episode of the program. I think about every day what my child would have become, how he or she would have impacted the world, what kind of a legacy would they have left.
Yep.
And even though it was not conceived in the most ideal circumstances,
correct.
As I shared on the other show, I was just out of high school, and I got involved with a service member. I was my mom was stationed overseas in Japan. Graduated from high school over there, and started seeing a service member, active duty service member, and he lied to me about his age and his status. He told me he was single and 19 because I was 17, but found out from his command that he was 25 and had a wife and a newborn in the States. And so all of that weighed in on my decision to end, to abort the fetus, because I did not want to.
Because that would have negatively impacted that family.
Right.
That could have caused them to get divorced.
Right.
And then you don't know where the unity of that family would have been.
Exactly. So that was a large factor in me making the decision that I did. But it doesn't excuse it, and it does not make me wonder what void I left on the earth. Because knowing what I know now, I would have had the baby.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Absolutely.
So what I would ask of you, or what I would say of you, what would you tell? What is the takeaway
Mm.
for women and men too, as their roles in this process? And what is the call to action for our listening audience?
Okay, for the men, if you need to make sure let's back this up. Mm-hmm. In order for the baby to even be there, that you have to go through some gyrations. Mm-hmm. Okay. So
no topic taboo, but I like the way you phrase that, gyrations.
Yeah, you got to go through some gyrations. You got to make some moves.
You have relations.
Yeah, you're gonna have some relations. Cleater. Stripper man. But I'm just saying. I mean, woman, you have to give up the fruit. And the brother's going to have to get some labor in to get that fruit. And if you are going to do that, you must assume that at some point you're going to cross that bridge and a baby's going to develop. Mm-hmm. And you got to be able to answer the question, are we going to be able to handle this? You can't legislate morality, okay? But what you can do is help people understand where you came from and what your decisions were and what your consequences were. And hopefully maybe they won't repeat those. You know, people that don't know the history are doomed to repeat it. And people that will give you history and you don't listen, you will repeat it. That's just how it works. I would say to the men, make sure that if you are going to avail yourself of a woman's liberty, be prepared to be a man about it. Mm-hmm. If you are going to be so-called a man, you about to show her a little something, mm-hmm. then you need to be able to show a little something. If the ultimate happens, she becomes pregnant, you can't change your mindset. The work that you put in to get into it, you need to put more work into it to be able to help raise what you guys brought into this world. You are bringing a life into this world. If you can get 25 years to life for shooting someone and killing them dead, then why can't you take that same reality and you two resolve that if this happens, we're going to raise this baby? Mm-hmm. Men, don't be punks. Don't be scared of the fact that she has a child. Now, there are some women that'll take that child and they'll hold it over their head and beat them with it. Take that child and...
that's the reality.
That's the reality of it. Mm-hmm. But you put yourself in that situation. So now what you need to do is you need to work together to figure out how can we make this life that we're about to bring into the world, how can we give this life the best chance to succeed? How can we set it up so that this child won't repeat the mistakes that we made? Mm-hmm. So let's talk. Let's figure out how we're going to make this work. Women, if you're pregnant, keep the baby. Mm-hmm. Even if you're raped, keep the baby. I know that sounds absolutely crazy. And, I got violated. I never wanted a child. I ain't trying to have no child. Oh, I know we're going to get some comments. I know we are. But let me tell you something. Yes, you are in control of your body. But think about it. No one aborted you. You're here. And you're enjoying life. Mm-hmm. Okay. You made the mistake of, having sex.
For those that weren't violated.
Thank you for making that delineation. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you weren't violated, you made that choice. Mm-hmm. So now you need to own up. Women, young lady, be a woman. Because if you don't know what it's like to be a mother, you're about to find out. And there's plenty of help for you. Mm-hmm. There's help. You may not have it in your own family. There might not be people in there that you might consider reliable folks that can help you, make that transition into motherhood. But there are all kinds of resources that are available for you so that you can get there. Men, don't abandon. Don't abandon that lady. Don't abandon that child. Don't walk away from that child. Stay and fight. Fight, and not fight to hurt. Fight to make a difference. Mm-hmm. Fight to provide that child with the environment that it needs so that it can make a difference in this world. Again, you have no idea who that child is going to turn out to be, mm-hmm. who that child will identify with, what that child will do if you kill it.
Well, I want to thank you, Mr. Montario Mo Weaver, for coming on and being so transparent about a topic that is very, very, very sensitive and very near and dear to both of our hearts.
Yeah.
And being able to hear it from the male's perspective.
Thank you.
Is very enlightening. So I thank you for the transparency. I thank you for the vulnerability.
You're welcome. It can be embarrassing.
Right.
It can be embarrassing. It can be hurtful. It can be a pride buster. You know, men like to be prideful. There's no room for pride in the kingdom. But, you know, until you come to that realization, men like to be prideful. And, you know, when men make decisions or make mistakes or create situations that allow them to feel less than a man, it does something to them. And then when you're talking about the loss of a child that has your DNA, that could have your eyes, that could have your lips, your nose, that could have your little weird smile.
That's real.
You know, might have that little cleft chin, you know, got that little booty chin, might have the same dimples that your daddy had or that your mama had, bushy eyebrows like your grandmama. You know, you don't know what that child is going to look like or the effect that it's going to have on people. Don't throw that away because the conditions in which you have that child are not favorable.
Well, thank you for that. So for my listening audience, I kind of want to sum it all up and wrap it up. For the ladies, I will say to you, you've now heard it from the male's perspective. So for the ladies that are out there contemplating, should I end this life? Should I not? Discuss it with the father, whether you're with him in a relationship, whether it was a one-night stand, whether you're friends with benefits. At least give him the option of helping you to make a decision, knowing that it's your body, but it was your body when you guys laid down to make the baby. So let it be a decision that you both come to. For the men that are listening, you've heard it from a male. We know that men are providers, protectors, and problem solvers. So for the men that are struggling, even if you don't like the mom, even if you don't like the woman and it was a one-night stand, one has nothing to do with the other. So make the best decision for your offspring. If she comes to you and asks you, what do you think we should do? Then, as Mo said it so eloquently, and I'm being facetious, man up. Man up. Because you don't know what void you are creating. What purpose won't be fulfilled. Because you're making a lifetime decision based on the consequences of a moment of pleasure. So I want to end it on what the word says. Because how do we reconcile any of this abortion? Because it is a stronghold of the enemy. The word says in Psalm 127 verse 3, children are a heritage from the Lord and an offspring, a reward from him. So who are we to make the decision to eliminate what God has deemed a reward? And for my listening audience, for those of you that this may have triggered some things or may have brought some things to the surface, there are resources available to you. For those of you that are computer literate, go online and Google help Planned Parenthood. Just Google Planned Parenthood and it'll give you information for you to reach out and talk about whether or not you want to make that decision to end the life. So there you have it on this session of Michelle Speaks. If you hide it, you can't heal it, and no topic is taboo. Mr. Montario Mo Weaver, thank you for sharing it from a male's perspective.
You are most welcome. You're most welcome. Thank you for having me on the show. This is tight. I like this. I still would like some fruit.
I have no fruit for you.
Bananas, some orange wedges.
I had the fruit of the word.
Oh, okay. Hallelujah.
That's all I got for
I'm
you.
full. I'm full.
Well,
I'm good. I'm good. Hallelujah.
So you got your manna for the day.
Yes, I did.
We good then.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being on the show.